Hey folks, man, this is Monk, and we're back with another bonus episode of Classes of Cinematics, and I'm joined as always with my co-host. We got Bobby Blockbuster.
Yo!
Yeah, folks, and today we're going to be talking about some of the best comedy films, man, on this episode, and really, it's the same criteria, man, usually things that are made before the year 2000. I've got a wide range on my list, so I'm going to start off with one of my favorites, and we're going to be talking about The Jerk from 1979.
Good pull.
That's crazy because this is 79. I feel like it came out later. But it's starring Steve Martin, you know, and this is crazy, man. In this film, Nathan believes he was born a poor black child in Mississippi. He is, however, actually white. Upon figuring this out, he heads north to St. Louis to find himself. And this is where the film shines for me, man. It's a crazy setup, man. He's been raised by this beautiful, loving black family, and they just accepted him for what he is, even though he's just, at this point, it's crazy because he's like 30 when he leaves in this film, but he's supposed to be like in his like 19, 20.
Right.
I think he's getting gray a little bit or something, but his hair's always been white.
I was about to say, it's been white his whole life, man.
but it's beautiful because I think what is like, honestly, if you ask me, this was the first Forrest Gump kind of film because his life is like that, man. He goes out into the world and it's just a series of events that he's bumping into, and he's slowly leveling up at life. I think his first job is a gas station attendant, and from there he goes from I think he ends up in a circus, you know,
right?
And he has basically everything on the way up. He's just trying to figure out his life, and along the way, there's just really funny situation he finds himself in. Then come back to the damn when he's rock bottom, a guy that he met at the gas station that he helped out with his glasses, and accidentally made an invention for this guy, and this guy was a really nice guy. Actually left this guy royalties on that invention. All of a sudden, Nathan is a millionaire, yo. And then the film flips into another chapter where he's still going on an adventure and getting into situations as a millionaire. It's hilarious when we get that scene when everyone's coming to him for money, because once you got all the bread, everyone's looking for a handout or looking for you to help them. And yo, the cat juggler, bro, that scene. So there's this guy that comes up. Yo, he's dressed like a priest, and he's like, yo, we need money to stop this epidemic of cat juggling. Yo, this is one of the craziest videos. And then I love when the other guys come, these two dudes come, and he's like, yeah, man, we need you to help us out, you know, and I think they're trying to make some land development. It's like, yeah, we're trying to get rid of the, make sure we don't rent to these or sell to these guys. It's like, you know, the end words. And then my man Nate, this is the hilarious scene, and he's like, what? He's like, I am and he goes about the shirt and whips these dudes at, yo, this movie is insane, but it's still a beautiful watch. I love Bernadette Peters in this, man. I had a crush on her when I was a kid, man. She's beautiful in this as his girlfriend, but she even leaves him because his riches get out of control. But ultimately, this film is great, man. This is one of the all-time classics. Just one of the ones I throw on when I want to feel good and just watch this crazy story breakdown. And it's a story of a guy who finds the American dream, loses it all, and then still finds love and family at the end, man.
Aren't movies great?
I love it, man. I love it, man.
That is dope. Yeah, so my first one I'm gonna bring up is 1999's Office Space by Mike Judge, and what I love most about this film is that it focuses on the average everyday gripes and grievances of an office worker, which it can be wild in them cubicles, you know what I'm saying? And you know, it really dives into the aimlessness of it all, the meaningless reports and the monotony, feeling like you're just running on a hamster wheel. And
you might have to get into some gangster shit.
You might have to, you know what I'm saying? You might have to, you know, when that fax machine start acting up, you know, got to get dealt with. But you know, so in this we follow a dude named Peter, and he is just like, he's in robot mode, just cruising through life in neutral, and he doesn't like his job. He's unsatisfied with his relationship, and his girlfriend convinces him to see a relationship counselor. And what ends up happening is the counselor, during the hypnotism, the counselor kind of pretty much feeds him full of I don't give a fuck, and then has a heart attack. And so my man Peter is stuck in that trance. He's stuck in that mindset where now he just don't care about much of nothing outside of like getting his chill on. And he takes that energy back to work, and with that energy, he ends up getting promoted. He's bucking the system. He's bucking back at his boss. He don't really care much about nothing until his two homies get fired. And that's one of them is Samir, and the other one is Michael Bolton, not the singer. And once they get fired, now they get together and they want to devise a plan to get payback from the company that's been screwing them up until this point. So Michael Bolton, he kind of comes up with this little, a program to kind of, extort money in a very small fashion.
Ain't it the Richard Pryor Superman 3?
Pretty much, yes. Unnoticeable extortion is what we'll call it. And, everything, goes right up until they realize that they misplaced one of the decimals, and they took a lot more out in a very small period of time. And with all this going on, there's just all this craziness, with Peter's now new relationship with Jennifer Aniston, who was that's also kind of cool, and just all the craziness that's going on with all these other sub characters, these workers. You got my man Milton, who is just he gets screwed over every which way by the company, to the point where they move his desk everywhere it can be. And then they just have him still doing work and not getting paid for it. So with all this,
he was wild.
So with all this stuff happening, it's just, it's done in such a hilarious fashion. It's relatable to anyone who works in an office setting. You can find some form of relatability to this movie, and I'm saying that with my heart. But I will say I'll take an office setting over retail any day, because retail is just rough. I'm sure they make movies about the gripes and grievances of retail workers as well, and I would love to see one of those. But let me not sidetrack. What is great about this film is that, just like I said, it's relatable, it's funny, it's delivered in such a just a hilarious fashion, and the end result is you walk away with this with a lot of belly laughs and a clear understanding that you don't mess with people just because they seem unsuspecting, and don't ever, ever, ever take your coworker's stapler, especially if it's red, because they might burn the building down.
Yeah, man, this is a great film, man. I remember definitely checking this out in the theaters and having a blast. It's actually also one of the best-selling DVD Blu-rays ever. It might be surprising where this thing sits on the list. I wish they disclosed those numbers, because I would just be bragging on y'all, man, if it was my company that made this film. Yeah. But I don't know why they don't disclose these numbers, man. It's crazy to me. But anyway, my next one is going to be Half Baked, and I picked this comedy because what I think is dope about it, it is kind of an extension inspired by the Cheech and Chong era of films that we got, but surprisingly enough, it's something that was inspired by something that I think actually outdoes that thing that it was inspired by, man. And this story involves a group of stoner friends. One of them is falsely arrested for a simple mistake. They band together to start selling, their favorite thing in the world, which is weed, in order to raise money to pay for his legal defense and try to get him out of prison before the Squirrel Master and who was the other guy? The Squirrel Master and Nate and Nate.
Oh, nasty Nate.
Dude,
cocktail fruit.
Yeah, before they do bad things to us, but man, they try to get their guy out of there. But but what's great about this film is the comedy cast that were put together for this film, including Dave Chappelle. For a lot of people, it was their first introduction to him. He is the star, the main character in this film. We also get Jim Brewer, who was great in this. Guillermo Diaz plays Scarface. turn around and ask you for half of a cheese B.
Yep.
And then we also get Harlan Williams, who's great, man. We might have to bring up Rocket Man one day, bro. I love that damn movie.
Yeah.
Tommy Chong surprisingly makes an appearance in this. We also get Rachel True, Jon Stewart, Clarence Williams III, Neil Brennan, Snoop Dogg, Laura Silverman. Like there's so many people. Willie Nelson, Stephen Baldwin. Like everyone in here is crazy. Tracy Morgan. The cast and the people that they got to participate in this, man, it's really great. And the story itself, like I said, man, it does a really great job of just remixing the stoner comedy that got so popular with Cheech and Chong stuff in the 70s, 80s to something new and fresh that was equally as good, if not better, man. You know,
I would say better. And what I like about the story is it's so easy to follow. It's pretty much like watching a Seinfeld episode or something. It's just you implant them on this particular day. This is the course of events. Follow them through it, and they're all doing it super fried. So of course they're moving every which way but forward.
And there's so much about this film that just became part of the bigger popular culture. Like
Absolutely.
you could quote lines from this film, and people know what you're talking about. Like you ever watch Classic Cinematics? But I'll tell you what, watch us on weed. Yeah. And it's a little different experience.
Red team go, red team go.
Well, yeah, man, really great, man. One of the best, man. One of the great. I think at one point I had 3 copies of this DVD, and maybe that was the short-term memory kicking in. I kept buying this damn DVD, and I had
want to
3
make sure you
copies
had
of it. I had 3 copies of it on my shelf at one point. I realized, I was like, damn.
Dude, I kid you not, when I was in high school, me and a couple of the homies, for almost like 2 months straight, it was ritual. After school, we would go get fried, watch Half Baked. Not every day. Did it for months, man. It was great. But great movie. I love that. So I'm gonna follow that up with 1987's Spaceballs, directed by Mel Brooks. One thing you must know about Spaceballs, and it is powered by the Schwartz. And I love this film because I am not the biggest Star Wars fan. Everyone who knows me knows that. I am not going to dig on Star Wars. I'm not. I understand what it brought to the movie world and why it has such a large fan base. I am not one of those fans, but I love this movie because it took something that was so beloved by the masses and so well received and just had such a serious undertone and made it funny in every single way possible. They make fun of this movie for the plot, the premise, the story, the names, the costumes. I mean, you got Rick Moranis running around with a helmet that's 4 times too big for his head, and he's supposed to be Darth Vader, but his name in this is Darth Helmet, and pretty much we follow his name's Lone Star and Barf. Barf was played by John Candy, was supposed to be the equivalent of Chewbacca, and Lone Star is played by Bill Pullman and was a mesh between Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. They cruise around in a souped up space Winnebago, and they have been now asked by the king of another planet to save the princess, who would be the equivalent of Princess Leia. And just the way that this adventure mission quest just kind of goes every way that it shouldn't go is hilarious. There is tons of memorable scenes. You still get your space stuff, but like just everything that made Star Wars hit so hard just was made so light-handed with this. Like simple things like even jamming a computer. They show a spaceship throw a big can of jelly onto a radar thing. You know what I'm saying? Combing the desert. That's my favorite scene. They comb the desert with big combs and they ain't find shit. I mean, it's great on every level. Like I said, the cast was great, and when it comes to spoof films, Mel Brooks is one of the best at doing it. He's done it multiple times, and he did not miss the mark with Spaceballs. This is one that if it's on at any point in the day, I will sit and watch it. Doesn't matter what part it's at, beginning, middle, end. I will sit back and I will watch it and enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, man. He was just on a run, man. He had a tear with, including this, Blazing Saddles, the History of the World, the stuff that he was
Men
doing.
in Tights?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did Men in Tights.
I believe he did.
What?
Yeah,
I gotta look.
I believe he did. I could be wrong, but I believe he did.
So my last one is going to be the classic from 1983, Trading Places. And this is a film I watch maybe once or twice a year. And it holds up, man, to this day. This is Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd, Jamie Lee Curtis. Shout out to Dom Amici and Ralph Bellamy as the Duke brothers. But those are our main guys here. You know, there's also some other appearances from, you know, Jim Belushi got an appearance in this. It's crazy too. Giancarlo Esposito's in this too as a prisoner during the prison scene. But essentially, you get two guys from vastly different backgrounds. You get a Wall Street stockbroker played by Dan Aykroyd switches places with a street bum and con man named Eddie Murphy, and all over a bet by the Duke brothers. It's crazy to me the setup of this film because Dan Aykroyd is their top guy. He's a young guy on the come up. They love him, but then to make this dollar bet, wondering what if we put Eddie Murphy characters and gives him everything, advantages in life, how would he do? And how would Louis Winthrop do having to live in Eddie Murphy's conditions? And it's interesting, man. It's wild to me because Dan Aykroyd is immediately struggling. If he didn't run into Jamie Lee Curtis's character, he probably would have been dead in a couple days, you know, or locked up. Versus Eddie Murphy, he kind of just gets a quick explanation and he's thriving. Yeah. You know, just with his street smarts and wisdom, you know, so it's weird, man. Even though this is a comedy, that's always in the back of my head as I'm watching this, just deeper social, economic discussions.
Yes.
But outside of that, man, I think this is a hilarious film, man, because it's funny watching Eddie Murphy in these situations. You know, having to deal with this stuff and he's coming up, but also realizing that money doesn't solve everything. Money might get you attention and stuff, but it might not be the right type of attention. Like that one point when he's having this party in his house and he realizes like these people are only here because I got stuff. They don't care about me. You know, I think that's an interesting lesson that his characters learn on the way. And Aykroyd's character, even though he's struggling way worse, he's not as successful at it, but watching him realize things on his way is kind of cool too, man. And it makes and it's done in a funny way. There's still funny stuff going on in this film, and eventually these two characters get together and conspire against the Duke brothers who made this bet and twisted both of their lives upside down. So then that becomes another part in that last end of the film that makes it even more cooler, man. But this is probably, for me, my second favorite Eddie Murphy film outside of Harlem Nights, man. I think this is probably where he peaked. For me, you know, some people like the Beverly Hills or the other things a little bit more, but for me, this is probably my second outside of the Harlem Nights. I think he did his thing here, man. You know,
he did. And you know, and one thing I love about this film is I love a comedy that can touch on very serious key points and do it in a funny way to make people take the time to actually let those things be heard. You know, I mean, it's ultimately it focuses on social status and how people, you know, treat others that they feel are inadequate, or, you know, the elites versus the, you know, the underbelly. And that's just not, you know, it's not cool. That's been a battle we've been fighting on for many years.
It cracks me up, man. I don't know. Now I'm struggling now because I just remembered Coming to America, and it's tough, man. But
I was about to say, I'm thinking of a lot.
Those are definitely my top three. Then
Golden Child would be up there high for me too. You know what I'm saying?
But it's still a good time, man. Like I love the moments, man. Like you know, and even to throw back to this film in a later film, like in Coming to America, when he gives the Duke brothers the bag of money and they're homeless, and it's like, Mortimer, we're back. And like it just shows how iconic this film even is to throw back to it, man. Great times, man.
Yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this thing out, just like Friday closes out the week. It's Friday from 1995. This is by far one of my favorite comedies, and it's so good you can watch it on any day of the week. You know what I'm saying? And what I love about it is it frontlines the crazy things that can happen on any given day in any given neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? And we pretty much we follow Craig, who is home on a Friday. He should have been at work, but coincidentally enough, he got fired the day before, which was his day off, because they said he was stealing boxes. So we follow him and his homeboy Smokey, who just kind of stops by, wants to shoot the shit and smoke some weed. And all of the things that happen, throughout this one day, from the most minute things to like staying off Stanley's grass or catching up with Chris, who kicks over their trash cans, to then having to maneuver and navigate around Debo trying to, rob everybody, or the main thing is they have to get low from Big Worm because Smokey owes him some money because instead of selling the weed that he should have been selling, he smoked it all up, and now Big Worm wants his bud or his money. So, thanks. I just must have hit the ESPN top 10. But yeah. So with all that, it's just, I love the way that this film just kind of gives us this everyday element, but what outside of the story, which is also just relatable and given in just a very, very funny way. It is a stellar cast from top to bottom. I mean, you got Ice Cube, who also wrote this film. This was his third time writing a film. The other two, they just kind of went to the wayside. So this was the first one that was kind of given to the masses. You got Chris Tucker as Smokey, John Witherspoon, Faison Love, Nia Long, Regina King. I mean, Bernie Mac makes a guest appearance, and because of this ensemble of characters and the way that they are delivered and given to us, that's what makes this film so memorable. I mean, I don't know pretty much anybody who hasn't seen this movie. And, one thing to me, what makes a comedy great is when you can watch it multiple times and it never loses its funny. And this is one of those ones for me. I could put it on at any given time and it is just as funny to me on that viewing as it was my first viewing. You know what I mean? Like, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, it's iconic. I think the characters definitely are great. They make this thing, man. It really does feel like a day or afternoon in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's cool. Like you said, it has these elements of it that are highly relatable, man. Even the characters themselves. Mm-hmm. And it still holds up, man. It's a really good time. Iconic. Like us, when I'm talking about have big, phrases and things that became greater parts of pop culture. Like, even now, you got knocked the fuck out. Yeah. Like, when people say that kind of stuff, or
the
Felicia, what you got on my 40.
Yeah. I mean, they make memes that about kind of this stuff.
Like, yes. Debo, nowadays we call bullies Debo now. Mm-hmm. Like, it could be anyone. We call them Debo, mm-hmm. or you got Debo'd. Yeah, if you got it's crazy, man. So I think that's a testament of something that's great. When they become bigger parts of the popular culture, man. And Friday is definitely one of them, man.
Absolutely.
Great film.
And it spawned 2 sequels that were also equally funny. I mean, for their own brackets of what they brought to the table, especially the second one. I really like the second one almost as much as the first one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely a good time, man. Well, I think that's the end of our good time, man. You're going to have to come back again if you want some more of this goodness. And this has been another episode of Classes of Cinematics with Monkey Bobby, man. Make sure you click on the QR code if you want to buy some merch to support us, man. You can support us on many levels. We have everything from mugs, stickers, to hoodies, man, to match your budget. And share and leave comments, man. That's going to help us out more than anything, to be honest, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You can catch us at Classes of Cinematics on Instagram, and you can catch me at Monkey Blood on Twitter and Instagram. And apparently, I'm also on Threads now, but it sucks over there, bro. It's trash, man.
I don't know what that is. All right, well, you won't see me on Threads or any of those other platforms, but you can see me on our other film review show, or you can see me on the next episode of this.
All right, folks, we out of here. Peace. Ooh, all right, man.